Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather for next week to 10 days. For today's video, which takes us through the first 10 days of August, we'll be able to extend out beyond that with the extended GFS and ECM ensembles, which run to a couple of weeks. And we'll have a look at the Beijing Climate Center for the next 40 days. That takes us into the beginning of September, can you believe? At the end of the video, something quite interesting will be appearing for the winter of 2019-2020. So you can say this is a very, very extended outlook indeed. That's right, at the end of the video. Before we get on with that, though, just going to say a big thank you to our latest patron. So we've got a new patron for Gas Weather. It's out to 64 patrons. Hello, and a big thank you to all 64 of our patrons. So Tom Mason has become Gas Weather's 64th patron. A big, big thank you to Tom for becoming our 64th patron. Thanks so much for doing that, Tom. So if you would like to become a patron for Gas Weather's, all you need to do is come to the Gas Weather's Patreon page. You sign up for a Patreon account, assuming you don't already have one. And then you can pledge an ongoing monthly donation to Gas Weather's from anything from $1 a month upwards. By doing that, you become a patron for Gas Weather's. You'll pool in with all of the other patrons. And thanks so much to everybody for doing that. It really is very, very kind and generous of you to become patrons for Gas Weather's. Alternatively, you can give a donation through PayPal. So if you'd rather do it that way, you just come to the Gas Weather's PayPal page, you sign into your PayPal account. Most people have one of those, of course, and then you give a donation to Gas Weather's through PayPal. And whether you do it through Patreon, whether you become a patron or whether you become a donor through PayPal, you're going to get a mention in videos. We'll give you a shout out, say thank you so much for doing that. As long as you want, one or two people have chosen to remain anonymous while we've been doing this over the past year or so. And if that's the case, just leave a little note with your donation or when you sign up to Patreon and let us know you'd rather not have a mention. But otherwise, we will give you a shout out, say thanks so much for doing that in the video. So a big thank you to all of our patrons and a big thank you to all of our donors. You're helping to pay for GavsWeatherVids.com and keep the content online. So a huge thank you to all of the patrons and donors for doing that. And a special thank you, of course, to Tom Mason becoming our latest patron. Right, CT is in for July. So this is Gas Weather's Central Temperature page. We've got every month CT going all the way back to 1659 here. So we scroll down through the centuries and we get down to our latest year, which of course is 2019. And we come along the columns. That's January, that's February, that's March, that's April, that's May, that's June. And here's July, standing this month at 17.5, which is exactly where we was pitching it yesterday. We did yesterday's video. He said it could be somewhere around mid-17s, somewhere around 17.5. That's exactly where we come in. So it's been a warm month, most definitely. It's been warmer than average, set against 61 to 1990, the old, whoops, let's get rid of that. So set against 61 to 1990, the old cold temperature average. It's over 1.5 degrees above average. That average is 16.0. The more modern average is 81 2010, just here. And the CT for that temperature average is 16.7. So even against 81 to 2010, it's nearly a degree above average. It has been a warm July, nowhere near as hot as July last year, of course. July last year came out 19.1, exceptionally hot month, so nowhere near as hot as that. But of course, this July 2019 does contain that extraordinary heat wave that we had at the end of the month. Been a very good decade for July. Sometimes you go through these periods where certain months have a particularly warm sort of period, or sometimes a particularly cold period. So we begin the decade in 2010 with a warm July. That comes out at 17.1. July's 2011, 2012, they go a bit down the pan. July 2011 is only 15.2 and July 2012 is only 15.5. They are both very poor summers. The first hot July this decade is 2013 with a CET of 18.3, but July 2014 is very warm too at 17.7. July 2015 at 15.9 is rather a cool one, even though it does encompass a very, very hot first day. Then we've got July's 2016, 2017 at 16.9 and 16.8. They're pretty decent Julys, nothing overly hot, but they are pretty decent. And then we've got July 2019, of course, the peak of the Julys this decade, 2018 I should say, July 2018, the peak of the Julys this decade at 19.1. Very, very hot July indeed. And then we've got 2019, of course, coming out at 17.5. So, again, very warm July. August has fared much less well this decade, of course. So got 2010, August 2010 at 15.3, August 2011 at 15.4. Nothing very much doing with those. August 2012 is at 16.6. Is actually the warmest month of the summer of 2012, which was an atrocious summer. So that one was actually the best month of the summer. Then we got 2013 at 16.9, a big drop down from July in August 2013. Very cold August in 2014 at only 14.9. That was the coldest August since 1993. 2015 August, not much to write home about at 15.9. 2016, a little bit better, 17.0. That's the best August of the decade so far. And then we've got August 2017 at 15.6, very poor. August 2018 at 16.6. I mean, not bad, but well below, nearly 3 degrees actually, or 2.5 degrees below July 2018. So obviously a big deterioration from July to August there. So been a very good decade for July's, been a much poorer decade for August. And the last time we had a very hot August, spoken about this quite a bit in the videos later, but the last time we had a hot August, which is a CET of over 18 degrees really, that was way back in 2003 with a CET of 18.3. So we did predict in the summer forecast that August 2019 might have a CET of 18.0. It might be the hottest August since 2003. It might be the hottest August for 16 years. At the moment, that looks like it's not going to come off because it looks like you have a pretty unsettled, to say the least, first half to August. I'll go through the charts in a moment. Interestingly, we had more hot August sort of 1990s and into the 2000s. So, for example, we have August 1990 with a CET of 18.0. Then we have August 1995, which is a very, very hot month at 19.2. July 1995 also has a CET of 18.6. Then we have August 1997, 18.9. And then finally we get August 2003. Let's get rid of that. So we get August 2003, which this was just here at 18.3. So from 1990 to 2003, 13 years, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 August that have CETs of 18 Celsius or more in 13 years from 1990 to 2003, and then none in the past 16 years. So you go through these phases within the weather. Sometimes it does appear that the weather has a bit of a memory to it. Although how it works, why it happens, I don't know. But you do go through these periods where certain months become warmer and sometimes certain months become cooler. Again, another example is September. I won't go through that, but through the 1990s and early 2000s, up to the middle of 2000, we had a lot of very warm Septembers. Since around 2006, September has tended to cool a little bit, actually, compared to the late 90s and the early to mid 2000s. September has tended to turn closer to average. So why we go through these phases with these months, it's very, I'm not sure why that happens, but it is apparent that that is something that does take place within the weather. So from 1990 to 2003, we have four August in 13 years that have CETs above 18 degrees, and then none in the past 16 years up to 2019. Of course, we don't know yet where 2019 is going to finish up, but certainly up to now, the last 16 years have had none, and it's tended to be July that has been the hotter of the summer months. So very interesting how these things work out. But anyway, for the CET for July 2019 at 17.5, that's where it comes in. Let's move on and have a look at what's happening in the tropical Atlantic. So we talked about this in the video yesterday. Got two areas of interest, this yellow X just here in the Caribbean, this one in the tropical Atlantic Ocean. The one in the Caribbean is still not going to do a great deal. It's got a 0% chance of becoming a tropical storm in the next 2 days and only a 10% chance in the next 5 days. It doesn't look like that one is particularly interesting at the moment. This one here, though, we talked about this yesterday, possibly becoming tropical storm Chantal. And the chance that this is going to become a tropical storm has actually increased over the past few hours. So this is what they're saying about this one. It's disturbance 2. At the moment, it's got a 10% chance, or only a very low chance, of becoming a tropical cyclone in the next 2 days, but a 70% chance, can you believe, in the next 5 days. So a high chance it's going to become a tropical storm in the next 5 days. They're saying a broad low pressure system located about 900 miles west-southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands is producing a large area of disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Gradual development is possible during the next couple of days while the system moves west-northwest at around 15 miles per hour across the central tropical Atlantic Ocean. Conditions are forecast to become more conducive for development over the weekend, and a tropical depression is likely to form by early next week several hundred miles east of the Lesser Antilles. Tropical cyclone formation chance in the next 48 hours is low at 10%, but formation chance through the next 5 days is high at 70%. This could well be Chantal. This yellow X here could well be Chantal early next week, and obviously we will keep a close eye on that. NAO observed and forecast looking like this. So the black line shows where I've been with the AO. The red lines at the end where the Arctic Oscillation is being forecast to go. So I should say AO and NAO observed and forecast are looking like this. So I've been in a negative phase of the Arctic Oscillation. You can see that quite clearly. Go right way back into the spring. Actually, that's when the AO went into its negative phase. We are currently negative with the Arctic Oscillation, forecast to stay negative through the first week of August as well. Possibly hints of going back closer to neutral as we get into the second week of August. So a little bit of a recovery in the Arctic Oscillation is trying to take place. Although we have been here before over the past few months. We had a recovery there and then back to negative, a slight recovery there, and then again back to negative. So we've been in this situation before where the AO has popped back up close to neutral, tried to recover, but then fallen back into negative territory. At the moment, we are negative with the AO, so we've got blocking again over the Arctic, and we may well try to get back to neutral or above neutral into slightly positive territory by the middle of August, but whether we can sustain that for very long, it remains to be seen. Remember, these indexes are just reflecting the atmospheric state. This time it's reflecting the atmospheric state in the Arctic as opposed to anywhere else. So it just shows that when the AO is negative, got high pressure over the Arctic, got blocking essentially over the Arctic. When the AO is negative phase, then you'll have low pressure. When the AO is in its positive phase, I should say, then you have low pressure over the North Pole. NAO observed forecast looking like this. Again, the black line shows we've been with the NAO, red lines at the end, where GFS Sumbles forecasting NAO to go. We have been basically negative with the North Atlantic oscillation since around the third week of April. That was broken just for 2 or 3 days while we was having the heat, whilst we was having the heat wave last week. It was broken, and we went very slightly positive with the NAO. So that run of negativity was broken very briefly, just for a couple of days, but then dropping back again. That's where we are right now. We're back negative with the NAO. Going to stay negative by the look of it up towards the middle part of August, although by mid-month we might again just be seeing 1 or 2 hints that we're going to try and recover the NAO. We're going to try to get it back towards neutral, slightly positive. Again, we've been here before. Last week we went slightly positive with the NAO, wasn't able to sustain it, and we went back negative again very quickly. So both the indexes for the next week or so are going to be in negative territory. They might try to stage a bit of a rally back towards neutral or slightly positive by mid-month. Whether that can be sustained for very long remains to be seen. These are the ECM and GFS 500 millibar height anomaly flow charts for the next week to 10 days from Penn State University. You've got the ECMWF here on the top, and the GFS, which I'll have in a moment, is on the bottom. 500 millibars, 80,000 feet is an area in the atmosphere where high pressure and low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream running above. Red extrapolates high pressure blue to low pressure. So you can see that in the 7 to 10 day time frame, which takes us through the first 10 days really of August, we've got an unsettled looking situation. We've got below average heights coming in off the Atlantic into the UK, blocking signal up towards Greenland and the Arctic. Jet stream pushed southwards. It looks like it's going to be unsettled through the first week to 10 days of August. Might not necessarily be overly cold. We could be bringing up the air from the southwest at times, so it might have sort of semi-tropical influences to the air, which means it could be quite warm and humid on occasion. But it does look unsettled, definitely, for the first week to 10 days of August. The GFS is very similar. Again, we've got the below average heights running in from the Atlantic into the UK. Jet streams coming in like that. There's a bit of a blocking signal up to the north, not as much as the ECM, but still a bit blocked up to the north. And overall, it looks like an unsettled opening week to 10 days of August. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. Looking at Exeter today, home of the UK Met Office, of course. So the red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Exeter. I think we have signs of a little bit of a zonal sine wave here. We've got warmer sectors, cooler sectors, warmer sectors, cooler sectors, warmer sectors, sort of alternating. So maybe we're going to a slightly autumnal type zonal sine wave, although you can get zonality any time of the year. At this point of the year, in winter, of course, a zonal sine wave, even though you've got warm and cold sectors alternating, you will still come out warmer than average in the winter. Because even when you're in the colder sectors, it doesn't tend to be all that cold, and the warm sectors override those cooler sectors in the winter. This time of year, zonality will tend to be quite cool usually, but it just depends if you're dragging the air up from like the tropical Atlantic. This period just here does look quite warm, doesn't last very long. But around sort of 9th, 10th of August, the upper air temperatures are looking quite warm there, so quite humid, but unsettled too. And I think that's the main story for the sort of first week, 10 days of August. Quite a bit of rainfall. Not all that much up to around the 5th. So the rest of this week, today, tomorrow, weekend, possibly Monday, reasonable amount of dry weather, but through next week it's going more unsettled with time. The precipitation spikes are increasing, they're getting bigger, getting more frequent, so it's indicative of the fact that it does look like it's going to be an unsettled first half to August, and particularly so from around the 6th, 7th of August onwards. Temperature anomalies from the 1st to the 9th of August, a little bit above average, not a big deviation, but it is still a little bit on the warmer average side. Remains very cold over poor old Western Russia. They've had a terrible time of it over the past few weeks and months. Precipitation anomalies from the 1st to the 9th of August, average to a little bit above average. So particularly for northern western parts of the country, looks like quite a wet opening to August. And expect those to trend wetter in the days ahead, as I keep saying. Right, so this is how the GFS is looking for Sunday. Low pressure begin to develop out in the Atlantic as early as Sunday, still under a slight ridge of high pressure further east, but I think the shower threat does increase on Sunday and particularly through to Monday and Tuesday as well, where this low pressure gradually meanders its way in front of the Atlantic. It's all rather slow moving. There's not much oomph to the jet stream at this point, but it is gradually turning more and more unsettled as we go through next week. By the middle of next week, we have a trough of low pressure over top of the country that's bound to be producing showers or longer spells of rain. Into the second half of next week, that low pressure pulls away to the east. Slight transient build of high pressure by Friday next week, but low pressure is waiting in the wings, and that low pressure heads in off the Atlantic over the weekend of the 10th, the 11th of August, bringing more bouts of wet weather in from off the Atlantic Ocean. Going to the extended range, generally rather unsettled. Now, by the middle of the month, we are trying to build up a ridge from the Azores high. That's a bit different to what the GFS has been showing lately, but it doesn't really come to anything. By Saturday, the 17th of August, we're still looking generally changeable and unsettled, particularly for northern and western parts of the country. The GEM is looking like this, so gradually it's turning more unsettled over the end of the weekend and into the beginning of next week. Low pressure slowly starts to take control of the weather. As we get through to the second half of next week, we've got this rather ominous looking area of low pressure down to our southwest. That could give a real soaking to some parts of the country as we go into this weekend of the 10th and the 11th of August. It particularly focuses the rain with a GEM on the south, but almost anywhere could get a soaking from that area of low pressure. That's how we look at day 10, which is Sunday the 11th of August. That low pressure is actually moving away to the east, but more lows are downstream in the Atlantic. That looks very unsettled. The ECM also, again, shower risk is increasing later in the weekend and through to the early part of next week. Low pressure just becomes increasingly influential, as it does with all models through the course of next week, with showers or longer spells of rain increasing. There's that slight transient bump of high pressure towards the end of next week, so we might get a drier day or so Friday, possibly Saturday, but with low pressure in the Atlantic, doesn't look like that would last very long. And by day 10, Sunday the 11th of August, we're back into low pressure conditions once again. Might not necessarily be overly cool with these areas of low pressure. I think they are bringing up the air from the middle of the Atlantic, so it could be relatively warm and humid, but I think the main emphasis will be on unsettled conditions with these lows. This is the option that's on the table within the ECM ensembles today for day 10 from the Icelandic Met Office. Day 10 is getting us to the 11th of August, of course. Blocking around Greenland, low pressure through the UK, and the jet stream come through the UK as well. It remains very unsettled as we're moving into the second week of August, and all members of the ECM ensembles are in agreement about that. By mid-month, we talked about this in yesterday's video, just a bit of a slight hint emerging that the pattern may change to something warmer and drier. This is getting us to 360 hours away. It's the 16th of August. Have 17 members of the ECM ensembles ridging up the Azores high. So that would be the same with jet stream northwards. Wouldn't necessarily be settled at that point, but it's certainly trying to get us towards more of a Azores high dominated situation. However, 15 members of the ECM ensembles look very unsettled with low pressure still through the country along with the jet stream. Another 15 have a trough of low pressure centred over top of the country. Obviously, they're very unsettled as well and potentially very cool with wind coming in from the north. And then 4 down here, more settled and hotter with a ridge of high pressure building through the UK from the south. Low pressures out to the west. That could be dragging up hot southerly winds. So by the middle of the month, there's a few hints that we might try and settle things down. However, equally, we might stay unsettled up to the middle of August, so inconclusive. Let's see what the Beijing Climate Center has to say. These are 500 millibar heights broken down into 10-day periods. The first 10-day period is going to take us from the 1st to the 10th of August. Coming 10 days has northern blocking around Greenland and low pressure from the Atlantic into the UK and also covering much of northern Europe. So it looks unsettled. We're bringing the jet stream through. Going to be bouts of rain and areas of low pressure moving in off the Atlantic through the first 10 days of August. The next 10-day period is going from the 11th to the 20th of August. Looks very unsettled. Trough of low pressure is centred almost over the top of the country. So, I mean, that's just going to be very unsettled and potentially rather cool as well. We will be moving the jet stream southwards. The next 10-day period is the 21st to the 30th of August. Again, low pressure is through the country with the jet stream. That one also looking rather unsettled, perhaps a little bit less so than days 1 through to 20. This is days 21 to 30. Possibly just a little bit less unsettled, but still overall low pressure is in control. And what about early September? Well, then signs of a change. This is days 31 to 40. It's a very long way out, but it's taken us from the 31st of August to the 9th of September. Look how that area of below average heights being broken apart. One area in the middle of the Atlantic, another up towards the north of Scandinavia. But the heights are clearly rising through the west of Europe. So that's possibly hinting at turning drier and warmer through early September, which is something that does happen a lot. It happens very regularly that we get the old wise summer through the first week or two of September and turn things drier and warmer then. A few hints of that in the Beijing Climate Center. Now, finally, I did promise you that we would have a look at the latest update from CANSIPS for the winter. This is mean sea level pressure for December 19. This is just a bit of fun, so don't get too excited about it. But this is the mean sea level pressure anomaly from the latest updates from CANSIPS at tropicaltidbits.com. It's just updated overnight. It's showing strong levels of northern blocking towards Greenland and Iceland with low pressure, a negative AO-NAO combination, in other words, low pressure to our south, jet streams down here, and we will probably be pulling in cold winds from the east or the northeast. That's December 2019. January 2019. Looks like that. Again, low pressure is over to the south of the UK. Strong levels of northern blocking, high pressure to the north with all of this red. Again, jet streams push southwards. We will be pulling in cold winds from the east or from the northeast, and then February looks like that. A little bit less blocking in February, but overall still with low pressure to our south. Still potentially bringing in cold easterly winds. This is the temperature anomaly for those months. So look at this. It's very unusual for CANSIPS. CANSIPS is normally one of those ones that is always warmer than average, or seems to be always warmer than average. But for December, the temperature anomaly for the UK and Northern Europe hints at being colder than average. January 2020 also hints at being colder than average with CANSIPS. And February also, despite the northern blocking reducing a bit in February, February is also rather colder than average. And March, actually we extend out even into the early part of next spring, and March is colder than average too. Very interesting update from CANSIPS. So we shall see. It's one of those models that tends to favour warmer conditions. So this is probably just some sort of outlier update from CANSIPS, but it is quite striking that it is going for large levels of blocking to our north and quite a cold winter. Just a bit of fun. It'll change several times before we get to winter, and I'm sure next month it will look a lot warmer. Coming back to August, well, it looks like the next few days could be have a reasonable amount of dry weather. There will be showers around, but I think quite a bit of dry weather into the beginning of next week. Make the most of it, because next week looks like things are going downhill and it becomes increasingly unsettled. Initially showers, but I think longer spells of rain get caught up in all of this. The second week of August could be quite unsettled too. Been a very extended video. Thanks for sticking with it. Thanks for watching. We've got Terry Scully's August forecast coming up to you tonight, so you see what Terry is forecasting for August around 7 o'clock this evening. Tomorrow is JMA Friday and another week to 10-day video update as well. Keep checking back for more, but that's all for now, and thanks for watching.